Welcome back, Joanne. It's been a minute. What's the last episode we did together?
Thank you.
I could tell you.
Oh, that was the last episode that we did together was with it was like the real life version of The Watcher.
Has it been that long?
I think so. I think so.
You're right.
Holy
Dude,
crap.
that was in January.
Really?
It's been overdue then that we're connecting again on this.
Yeah. Well, this whole year has been crazy.
Yes, it has. In fact, I haven't released an episode in several weeks now. And so I know my listeners are mad. Anyway, I'm glad you're here.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
So the case that we're talking about today, I sent you over some information about it. I was like, this is intriguing to me. I don't know how much you read. If you didn't read it, it's okay. But I just want to know for our own conversational purposes.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you said that because I was just about to say I only skimmed through the first parts of it because I didn't want to read through the whole thing. I'd rather be, I guess, quote unquote, surprised when you talk about it, and then we'll dive into it together.
Yeah, I think that's a good dynamic. And it adds more, it adds something when the other person you're talking to about it is like reacting to it. So, all right. So basically it's two cases. I don't know if you got that far.
Yes, I remember seeing that in the header, like the title of the case.
Okay.
But I skimmed through like the first parts. I didn't skim through the other parts.
Got it. Okay. So this, our stories, both of them are taking place in Nashville, Tennessee. And we're going to go back to November of 1999. So, God, I think I was in 5th grade at that time.
God, that is the year Jason was born.
Oh, yeah, that's right. For all those listening, Jason, should I cut that out or should I leave it? Jason is Joanne's brother, who I'm now BFFs with. Just kidding.
It's okay.
I try. So yeah, 1999. Yeah, so Jason would have been a month old when this happened.
Not even a month. You said what? November.
November.
What? November.
Almost 4th. A month. November 19th, if we're being exact.
Yeah, then almost a month.
Anyway, yes. So the case, who we're going to talk about first is Larisha Deanna Walker. And I'm going to refer to her as Deanna because that's what she went by. She went by her middle name, but you'll see it if you look her up. It's Larisha Deanna Walker. And she was 23 years old in 1999. And she, I believe, was raised in Nashville, Tennessee. She was the mother of a young son. He was 2 years old. His name was Rayvon. And just a disclaimer before I get into the details here, there are not many details. And like, it's kind of frustrating because there's just like not a lot out there about this case, which is unfortunate.
Mm-hmm.
So 1999, Deanna is 23 years old, young mother. And she is, so the evening of November 19th, she dropped her son off at her sister's house and she intended for him to spend the night there. Because early in the morning, she had planned to drive her car to Murfreesboro, Tennessee, which I want to say is like 40 miles south of Nashville, which is where she lived. But her purpose for doing that is because she was going to get a quote for like a repair on her car or something. I actually read one article that said she was trying to trade in her car, but another thing said she was trying to get an estimate on a repair. So she called her father that evening after she got home, I believe, between 9:30 and 10 p.m. And that is the last that anyone ever spoke to Deanna. So what happened, fast forward the next day, she doesn't come and pick up her son from her sister's house. So her sister drives over to her house. Deanna lived up here on Edwards Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
And her sister lived down here on Gale Lane.
Mm-hmm.
And so according to Google, it's about 10 miles depending on about roughly 10 miles, depending on which direction you take. So she drives from her house to her sister's house, drops off her son. And anyway, yeah, so this is where she lives.
Mm-hmm.
And she was, again, supposed to go to that other town, Murfreesboro, to get something done with her car. Okay. Well, her sister drives over the next day because she never comes to get her son. And when she comes upon her house, Deanna's house, all the doors are locked, the lights are on, and the stereo is blaring. But Deanna's nowhere to be found. At this point, and I'm not sure exactly how worried or concerned she was about this, but she basically just turns down the music and then leaves.
That's weird.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to judge them because I don't know their dynamic.
Yeah.
Or like if this was common, like she just got caught up doing something and it wasn't uncommon for her to just like, oh, like the kid can stay a little longer at my sister's, it'll be fine.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
But yeah. Either way. So Deanna is nowhere to be seen. So the sister turns down the music and leaves. Well, they still haven't heard from her by the next day. So they go back over to the house and it's exactly as it was left. So they're like, okay, something's not right here. So they, at this point, call the police. Some other facts about Deanna: she worked at Peterbilt Motors Company. This was a job that she found through a temp agency, but I'm not sure exactly what she did there. The only other information that we have, there is one very curious fact. As of today, her car have never been recovered. So she drove a 1995 Oldsmobile Achieva. Never found. Her car was never located, and neither was she. The only other detail we have is that a neighbor of Deanna's heard her arguing with someone late at night on the last night she was seen.
Are they able to identify whether the voice was more male or female?
It's a great question. And one of the frustrating parts of this is that there's just not a lot of information available. All we have is that a neighbor heard Deanna arguing with someone outside of her home. So that's it. And then the other things that her family had to say about her was that she was known as being very responsible. She was very protective of her son, who was 2 years old at the time this happened. But they also said she was a very private person. And she didn't share a lot about her personal life. But as far as her family knew, she was not dating anyone. But they did not know who she associated with. So obviously, I think the most important detail here is the argument. Who was that and why? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And I'll let you share your first reactions. One of my reactions was the music being up super loud. If she was having an argument, yep. I wonder if that was done to conceal something by the person that was responsible.
That's exactly what I was thinking too. And I think that makes sense because that's generally, I don't know. I guess I can't really say that. I don't want to generalize, but that's what makes sense in my head is that why else would the music be blaring, right? Like if she's a private person, I don't think that she would be blaring her music.
And it sounds like this wasn't regular behavior.
Yeah.
For her, just based on like the fact that they pointed it out, it makes me think this wasn't something that
he normally would do.
Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, another thing, they found all the clothes that she was wearing that night. So like when she dropped off her sister and the last time she was seen, right? When she dropped off her son at her sister's house on November 19th, mm-hmm. The clothes that she was wearing when she did that were found at the apartment. So that makes me think she obviously made it home because she called her dad.
Yes.
She calls her dad and she's heard arguing with someone outside of her house. So she was at home. So I wonder had she changed for the night and something happened after that?
Yes. So I know you mentioned that there isn't a lot of information on this, but do we have any information on around what time this neighbor heard the yelling or arguing?
That's a good question. Like I've never seen a time listed, so I just Googled it and to see if it's like there's an estimate of the timing. But yeah, that's another thing. It's like, what time was this? I don't know.
Right.
It just says the night of November 19th.
Right. Yeah, it really does suck that like there isn't that much information because I don't know, like I kind of like to piece things together in my head in like sequential order. So it's like, okay, so does she call her dad first and then she had an argument, which makes sense? Or did she have an argument and then she called her dad and then she was kidnapped or something?
I think I want to say this conversation with her father happened first because I think her father had said nothing seemed out of the ordinary.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's part one of what we're going to talk about. But her vehicle, that's another thing. The fact that her vehicle was never recovered, those cases actually intrigue me a lot because as the investigating officer in this case has said, most of the time those cars show up. And actually a few of the cases I've covered on this podcast have been the cases where people disappear with their vehicle, probably because I just find it so baffling. That's like the disappearance of Edward and Stefania Andrews that I covered really early on in the podcast. Their car has never been located. And then the one I did with you, Danielle Imbo and Richard Patron, remember those two?
Yep.
Disappeared on a night out. They were like casually dating and their vehicle's never been located either. So I don't know. That just adds a level of mystery to it. But yeah, they never found her car.
I mean, there's like a very obvious reason to me about why we never find some of these people's cars or vehicles is because they end up in chop shops. Right? So then like they would just take it apart and then they would either sell those parts or something. So that's why you would never locate those vehicles. Because otherwise, like, or like, you know, it's driven so far away that like it was just not found because those, wherever it's at right now, potentially has not been covered. But I would think that by now, after over 20 years, that someone
just think how old Jason is. Then you got your answer.
Yeah.
He'll be 24 next month. So we're coming up. Yeah, whatever it is. I got confused with October and November. Yeah. So it's coming up on 24 years that Deanna would be missing.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, yeah, like I would think that if it hasn't ended up in a chop shop and this vehicle is still whole, I would think that after 24 years, someone would have located it and have reported it.
Well, what if it was just like painted and the license plate was like changed? I mean, is that a possibility?
Yeah, I think that is a possibility. I don't know. It's a possibility. I just wonder if it's like the question in my head is, if that's the case, wouldn't they just like during the investigation, wouldn't they also be checking for vehicles like that anyway?
You would think so.
But they don't.
It's not, I'm sure they did an investigation. But that's not like a detail I've read or anything. Just that her vehicle was never located.
It could also be somewhere.
What's that? I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just saying it could also be in a garage somewhere or just
could,
you know, like anywhere covered.
Yep. Or it could be in a body of water or something like that too.
Yeah, I
But
guess it depends on like how in depth the investigation was, but it sounds like it's not very in depth.
it could have been. It's just the details are not like super available. And I know that as time passes, it's going to get even more difficult. We're on 24 years now.
Yeah. Right,
So
exactly.
it's not like if it wasn't recorded, it's going to slip away more and more.
Right.
I actually have a video clip I'm going to show you, but before I do that, I'm going to tell you about part 2 of the story.
Okay.
So yeah, when Deanna went missing in 1999, it was actually her mother, Wanda Faye Walker, who reported her missing, right? And she always stayed like on top of her daughter's disappearance. Like she was in regular contact with investigators and police for any updates to her daughter's case, which unfortunately never came. And she was on top of all this until she goes missing herself.
What?
Yep.
Oh my God.
So
Where are
Wanda
of that? Like there has
exactly. It's incredibly rare for someone to go missing. It's even more rare for 2 people in the same family to go missing. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is Wanda Faye Walker. Wanda is the mother of Larisha Deanna Walker, who disappeared in 1999. And it was 2016 when Wanda went missing. Okay. Now, obviously, the details are a bit different in this case, but let's just go over them, right? Mm-hmm. So she was 60 years old in 2016, and she lived with her cousin. And I have a map. Oh, no, I don't. I closed out of it. She lived in Nashville with her cousin. And she had a part-time job. She was like semi-retired, but to like keep herself busy, she worked at the Dollar Tree, which was like 2 miles from where she was living, right? Oh. Mm-hmm. On October 5th, 2016, she was on her way to work and she had car trouble. So she called her boyfriend, who I think his name is Harold. She called him to help her. And there's different reports on what was wrong with her car. He said he put some oil in the car. And it was also said that the car overheated, but from what I've like read and stuff, apparently like oil is not what you do for a car that's overheated. And I don't know anything about cars. So it's just weird that it's reported differently, but either way, her boyfriend says he goes to help her. He meets her on the roadside and then fixes her car. Eventually it gets started again. And so then he leaves and she continues on to work. Okay. Well, she never makes it to work, which is 2 miles away. So yeah, WTF. Something is not right here. Okay. So nobody hears from her for the next almost like week. And then her car is found. Now the car is found in an alley outside a residence on Wade Avenue. And this was just a few blocks from where she lived with her cousin. So it was very close. But the car was found on October 13th. She's last seen on October 5th. People in the area of where her car was found said that they noticed the car being there for about a week, which lines up with the last day she was seen. Right. But nobody reported seeing her or anyone else near the car. They just noticed it was there.
Well, that makes sense, though, because after some time, it's kind of like this. It's like, oh, it's always been there. And then it's like, oh, I never really noticed it, but it's just been sitting there. So nobody even realizes, like, who was even there to park the car.
Yeah, and it's like, how many times do you see something throughout the day and it doesn't mean anything until something
later.
happens, and then you don't, it's not like you're going to tie it back because you see like
Exactly.
100 people on your way to work, sometimes it's like.
Right.
So anyway, it's not a good sign, right? The scene in the car is not good. So they find her car in this alley, not too far from her residence. Inside the car are her personal belongings, such as her phone and her purse, which are obviously items that she would have with her.
Mm-hmm.
There was evidence of a struggle, and there was so much blood found in the back seat that investigators believe that she was killed. So we're not talking about a paper cut here. It's like they did do a test on it, and they determined it was Wanda's blood.
Oh my God.
I know. Also, very interesting, and probably the weirdest detail to me. Also inside the car, by the way, it was locked. I should have mentioned it was locked. Also inside the car was something called privet. Do you know what that is?
No.
Apparently it's a flowering shrub type plant. It's like a shrubby plant that produces white flowers.
Okay.
And this was found in her car.
That's weird.
And there's no sign of her, but there's enough blood in the car to think that she was attacked and probably killed.
Yeah.
And that's literally it, Joanne.
What?
We've got Deanna, who vanishes in 1999, and then 17 years later, the woman who reported her missing, her mother, disappears. And that's literally all we have. And more people need to talk about this because it's actually insane.
Mm-hmm.
Not only do you have the coincidence of the fact that both of these women went missing and they're part of the same family, you have just, it's just crazy.
There's no way that it's a coincidence. Like,
you don't think so? It was 17 years apart.
Yeah, but look, here's my theory. If she has been always on top of like the case of her daughter going missing, I wonder if she was actually getting close to something. And the person who
interesting,
made the daughter disappear, whatever, probably knows that and then was like, yeah, no, you're not going to live now. And, there's no way. Like, I think that the person who killed Wanda was also probably the person who either kidnapped or killed Deanna.
I don't know, man. I respect your opinion. I don't think I can agree with it. I just think 17 years is just too much time to have passed. I think it was a coincidence, but they both just, whoever they were associated with, I think it was separate. I want to know more about, and I'm not pointing the finger. I know nothing about this person, but whoever Wanda's boyfriend was that came to help her.
It's just like, yep.
So you helped her because she had car trouble, and then you left, and she vanishes.
Exactly.
Within the 2 miles. Like, you're on a roadway. Like, how does nobody see something?
Right. Like,
unless nobody's going to remember a man getting into a woman's car that she knows and that they just let them in. So I'm like, again, I hate to point fingers at some guy I don't even know, but did the boyfriend get in the car? And then nobody's going to notice, like, a man and a woman just getting in a car together, driving by on the street. He drives her somewhere. This altercation happens. He disposes of her. Mm-hmm. And then he drives the car back and leaves it abandoned in the alleyway.
What, they didn't find fingerprints in the vehicle?
Nah, no information about that.
What the hell?
Yep. I mean, maybe they did, maybe, but they haven't reported anything like that.
Huh. Yeah.
But they do believe, the police believe that it was somebody she knew.
Oh, yeah.
They don't say why, but I mean, if nobody notices anything on the side of the road, it either happened off, I think somebody did, like, got into her car willingly and then took her somewhere and then brought the car back. And what's with this damn shrub? I want to know more about this shrub, the shrubby plant. Like, where is that at? Because maybe that would give a hint of where. But why was it in her car? Because, like,
maybe she was taking it to work. But why would it? Like, why would she? That doesn't make any sense. Like,
well, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that, like, when you were telling like the second part of the story, I was definitely thinking, oh, it's the boyfriend. But I still think that whoever it was, like, I think that, like, they're linked. Like, I would not be surprised if the boyfriend was the one who, like, either killed the daughter or, like, something.
But no, the boyfriend, I don't even know that this boyfriend was in Wanda's life at the time, because 17 years apart, I mean, Deanna's father was a different guy.
Yeah.
And I don't know at what point Wanda and him separated.
Right. That's true.
But I don't think that Wanda, like, I don't think Wanda knew this guy back then.
Oh.
I mean, I you know what I actually did was, if you go on the Charlie Project website, which I talk about all the time on here, you know Charlie Project?
Yeah, you've shown me.
It's like a missing persons database, right? Well, on every single, like, on every missing persons page, they link to the sources that they took their information from. Mm-hmm. And one of the sources is this woman, and I won't say her name, even though her Facebook is public, but it's one of, I think, Wanda's daughters. And I'm not sure if would make it Deanna's, like, half sibling, or her full sister. I don't know. But anyway, she posted about her missing mother. Mm-hmm. And so I scrolled all the way back to 2016 to see, like, what kind of things were being posted and who was commenting and things like that. And I just, like, that's the research I did into this. And I couldn't find anything weird or, like,
right.
You know what I mean? I don't know what I was expecting, but I don't see any Facebook for this boyfriend of hers. And I don't see, like, I don't see much other than the father of Deanna is still living, I believe.
So weird to me that, like, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of reaction, even from, like, the family.
Well, I don't think that's necessarily true. I mean, she did post about her mother's disappearance, and they've given interviews, which I can show you.
Okay.
I can show you a few videos if you want to see those.
Yeah.
Why don't I show you?
Yeah.
A mother and daughter from Nashville are missing. Two separate cases, 17 years apart. Their relatives tell us they are not giving up hope and finding answers. All day, News 2 has special reports of the missing. Nikel Smith shares the latest from Metro Police while a family seeks closure in two tragedies.
More than 4 years since Wanda Walker's disappearance, the memories are still fresh for her family.
She was in education, so, like, she would make certificates, like, if we made AV on a roll. She was just, like, always all for, like, her grandkids, her children, her family, and she was always there. So with her not being there, it's tough and it's difficult.
A tough and difficult journey for a family all too familiar with tragedy. Wanda Walker went missing in October of 2016. 17 years before that, Walker's daughter, Larisha, disappeared as well.
We haven't heard nothing. Her job haven't heard anything. None of her friends heard anything. Nobody's heard anything.
That's Wanda talking on News 2 about her daughter's disappearance in November 1999. Metro Police believe Laresha was abducted.
She was supposedly going down to Murfreesboro to try to trade her car in, and that was the last time anybody saw her.
Me and her, we was real close.
Lakeisha Chambers is Larisha's sister and says there's no way she up and left.
Not with a 2-year-old son that she loved. I mean, she would do anything for that boy. What I could never get out of my head was the fact of how everything was left at her house.
The radio was cranked really loud, and there was no evidence of her being there. Her car wasn't there.
Laresha had a maroon 1995 Oldsmobile Achieva that was never found.
I would say there's definitely foul play. I mean, considering that even her car has disappeared and has never been found, that's extremely unusual. Cars always pop up somewhere.
Fast forward to her mom's case in 2016, Wanda Walker's Nissan Maxima was found a week after she went missing.
There was a significant amount of blood found in the back seat, and it was her blood.
He says investigators are confident she was killed.
It's a lot, because it's not something that you ever get over, like either situation.
Juanisha Gurley is the granddaughter and niece of the victims.
You don't have a burial site to go to. You don't have these things to allow you to even begin to have closure or even to heal about it.
They're hoping anyone with information will help to solve both cases.
I didn't have hope in the beginning, but now I do because I have faith, and it has really gotten stronger.
Definitely prayer and God has been the two things that I've relied on in this process. And I feel like it has just helped me just keep a positive perspective. And then extending grace for whoever did it and forgiving
whoever is responsible for bringing heartbreak to their family twice. Reporting in Nashville, Nicole Smith, News 2.
Detectives say there's nothing to indicate a connection between these two missing persons cases in the same family. But if you know anything about either of these cases, call the Nashville Crime Stoppers. The number is 615-74-CRIME.
For full clarification, the news story that I just played was from 2 years ago in 2021, because that was the 5-year anniversary of the disappearance of Wanda,
Okay.
who was the grandmother of this girl.
Yep.
I don't know how old this woman is, but I'm assuming she doesn't remember or doesn't know much about the other woman from 1999.
Mm-hmm. That makes more sense then, because that would have
been her aunt, but still, yeah.
Okay, that makes more sense. I don't know. This is really, it's weird because there isn't a lot of information. There isn't a lot of evidence, at least, out in public.
There's really not much more to go on. I mean, the details we have are what we have. But I don't think they're related, Joanne. I just don't. I think it's too much time has gone by.
I don't know. I feel like there's no way that such a coincidence can happen. How is that possible? I think it goes back to how there just isn't a lot of information or evidence, right? We don't even have any idea of what this person is like. I'm thinking Danielle Imbo, that case that we did, with whatever his name, Patron or whatever.
Richard Patron, yep.
Yeah, Richard Patron. I mean, we have a pretty good idea of their personality, their associations with different people and all this other stuff, but we're not really even getting that with Deanna and Wanda. Why is that?
Well, for Deanna, it sounds like, yes, her family said she was a pretty private person and they didn't know her friends very well, right?
Yes.
But for Wanda, the only thing I've really heard about Wanda was she was kind of the rock of the family. She was always there. She was the grandma.
Yeah.
But that's all I've really, really heard. You're right. I mean, I would love to know more about not that we would victim blame anybody. Not that we would judge the choices they made, but it would be more maybe that would give them an indication of, for example, somebody is a gambler, or a drinker. That's information that may be helpful in trying to find out what happened to someone. And I'm not saying that's the case for these people, but
Right.
What were they like?
Right, exactly. Because I mean, having that information really paints a picture, right? Of like, that helps like piece together like who they are and, what they would or wouldn't do. And then you would be able to figure out what is out of the ordinary or not.
Yes.
So, I mean, and that's why I think that is important. And that's why I'm like, gosh, I'm not really like, there literally is like nothing here, like I don't really feel like I'm getting a lot of like, Deanna's personality. Wanda's personality is very like the maternal figure of the household, protector. Yeah. And I think that's what makes it hard is not having that, because then you don't even know what to go by.
Yeah. And I don't even necessarily know that the reason we don't know that has anything to do with the family. I just don't think this case has gotten the coverage it should, or the interest that it should.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It sounds like there's some coverage of it.
Yeah.
But it has faded away. And the more time that passes, it's like,
right.
I think we can safely assume that Wanda was probably killed, unfortunately.
Yes.
I hate to say that, but that's what they said. It's like the amount of blood they found. It's like,
yeah. And okay, so like, do we know the amount of miles covered looking for Deanna and where?
No.
Like, see, that's what I mean. Like, why do we if there's an investigation, then why do we not know this information? Why do we not have that information?
So what I'm going to do is reach out to the investigating police department too. That I am, because I did that for a few other cases that I've talked about on here, and I've gotten a couple responses.
Yeah.
Not that it was anything good or like useful. Like I reached out about the Amber Ayez case with her daughter, and they're like, yeah, unfortunately, there's nothing new. Because I asked if there was any update in the case or blah, blah, blah. God, I would love to know what happened. That case, seriously, it eats my brain alive. Because it's like, what happened?
Right.
And it's like, I want to interview Zhang, but he doesn't speak any English.
At all?
My Chinese is garbage. So that wouldn't go over too well. But I would just love to, yeah. There's just Anyway, I will reach out. I'm going to reach out to some people to see if they'd be interested in sharing some more info. And then maybe I could do a follow-up to this story. Whether you would like to join or whether I do it. Because I do have more questions. Like, I want to know more. Let's see. So as far as Wanda's concerned, I would love to know more about this boyfriend, what their relationship was like. They known each other. I find it so intriguing but frustrating in these cases where there's different reports of different things are reported. So like, did her car overheat?
Yeah.
What happened to her? Like for Deanna, it almost feels like, I think something probably happened to her the evening that she was at home. Yep. I don't know that she ever made it to Murfreesboro to do anything with her car, because nobody's reported that. Like, she showed up at the dealership or whatever.
Well, here's my other thought. Like, was she actually gonna go because of that reason? Or does she just make something up? Because she's so private with her family, right?
Yeah.
Like, instead, she had this person over to talk about whatever. It didn't end well. And then she disappeared. You know what I mean?
That could be too. Yeah.
Like, I wonder if this whole like going to Murfreesville thing is just a cover up.
Murfreesboro.
Whatever.
I'm sorry. It's not funny. Shut up, Megan. No, you're right. That's a good point. Like, what was she sharing with her family? And how much of it was true, I don't know. Would she have a reason to lie? I don't know this woman. So it's like, you don't want to judge, you don't want to make a judgment, but you also have to think about like what was going on in this person's life at the time.
Right.
Who
Right.
were they associating with?
Yeah. And I don't, I don't know if it would be considered a judgment because I'm thinking in terms of like, information that we got from her family was that Deanna is a really private person, right? So it makes me question whether or not she even was going to go to this place for that reason, I don't know. So,
or she just needed her son to be not there because who knows why.
Exactly. So it's kind of like that's why information about like them and their personality, things like, the circle of friends that they have and all of that, it builds up a story of who they are and their character. And I think that helps.
All right. Well, I'm going to send an email to the Nashville Police Department and then see what I can find out from that. Because, there might be things they're not releasing. Not that they would give it to me, but is anyone asking for it? That's another thing.
Yeah.
Maybe the family is. Maybe they're sharing things with the family. But as far as the public goes, who's talking about this?
Right.
The last news stories are from 2 years ago for the 5-year anniversary. It's like maybe just not enough people are asking questions. Maybe the answer is, more obvious than, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Or am I rambling now?
No, I mean, I think, because like we were saying, there isn't a lot of information. And I mean, is this considered, is this an open investigation?
Yeah. I believe even the FBI is involved. Let me just double check this. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. Nashville Police Department and FBI teamed together in renewed effort to find answers in Wanda Walker missing person case.
When was that?
This was 2 years ago. Again, This is the 5-year anniversary of Wanda's disappearance. So they say Wanda, who was 60 at the time of her disappearance, was last seen leaving her residence in the 1400 block of 11th Avenue South in Nashville on October 4th, 2016. She had been residing there with her cousin. After 3 days of not being able to find Wanda, her family reported her missing to police. Wanda was an employee of the local Dollar Tree store and had missed 2 days of work, which was unlike her. Her car was located 1 week later in the 1000 block of Wade Avenue. It contained many of her, and then it goes through all the stuff that I said. And it says the FBI is offering a reward of up to $10,000 for information leading to the arrest and conviction of anyone involved in this case. Then it goes on to say if you have any information to contact them. So yeah, the FBI is involved. I don't know about Deanna's case, but they're involved in Wanda's case. So
interesting.
Yeah. I mean, we could go on and on and on, but that's really all the info I have. It's interesting.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting that it happened to 2 people in the same family. And both where there's just not that much information.
Yeah.
If you have any information on the disappearance of Larisha Deanna Walker or her mother, Wanda Faye Walker, 17 years apart, you're asked to contact the Metropolitan Nashville Police Department at 615-862-8600. Thank you for listening to episode 49 of 1 minute and 43 seconds, a true Unsolved Mysteries podcast. Until next time. 1 minute and 43 seconds is dedicated to my number one fan. Thanks, Dad. I love you and I miss you. This podcast has been approved by Skipper the Cat. Right, Skippy?